So, hi everyone, welcome to a day in a life of. Today we have marketing as a department, so we have a couple of head of departments here. So we have Andrea from Bright AI, we have Jack from Assess First, and we have Alicia from Immune Diagnostic. So my name is Mafalda. I'm the head of business development and customer success here at Wonderway, and I'm super excited to speak with my guests today. So I'll let them introduce themselves. So Andrea, why you don't go first?
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea Mandial. As Mafalda said, I'm the head of marketing at Brighter AI. For the last decade, I've been doing B2B marketing for different startups and scale-ups in Berlin. And yeah, Brighter is no different. It's a privacy tech startup based in Berlin.
Great. Jack, would you like to go second?
Sure. So I'm Jack. I am the marketing manager for UK and International at Assess First. So Assess First is basically in the behavioral science and predictive recruitment space. Although looking after the marketing, I've got a background in sales management as well. So kind of went from the bright side to the dark side in marketing.
That's a good one. That's a good one. Alicia.
Okay, well, my name's Alicia Revelo. I'm head of marketing here at Immune Diagnostic AG, here in Bensheim, Germany, next to Frankfurt. I'm obviously not German by my accent. We are a company that we work on developing and manufacturing in vitro diagnostic devices, so very biotech focused.
Very, very nice. 3 different industries. That's great to hear. So yeah, let's crack on. So Jack, how is your role in a nutshell? Let's start very general.
Well, it's marketing in a nutshell, but it's very broad. So I'm by trade, I suppose I'm a marketing generalist, and so my remit really is primarily thinking across brand, across lead generation, across strategy, also across account development. I think with Assess First is actually a French business and a really quite well known in this space in France, but is a little bit more immature in the UK market. It's been around for a couple of years, but I think it's fair to say the brand presence is not as strong in the UK. So most of what I'm doing is a combination of working on the awareness stage of the funnel in terms of very broad brand awareness, but of course, really trying to be as revenue focused as possible and not just spending my time there. So working quite closely with the sales team, which is developing at the minute, to generate leads and to generate the right kinds of leads as well.
Very nice. Alicia, what does it differ from what Jack said? So how's your role?
Okay, my role, I would say, of course, it implies strategizing. I would say that also my role implies a lot of personnel. So of course, like I manage a team, and at the end of the day, people is sometimes the most complicated part of a company. So of course, managing people plays a big role in my job and what I do. But I would say that we're more focused on strategizing. We're focused on business to business. But of course, we try and develop very niche parameters for diagnostics. So we have to try and convince key opinion leaders and doctors that they should use this specific parameter for the diagnostics that they're doing for certain diseases. So of course, for us, it's always strategizing about why they should use that. And of course, lots involved in actually the development of the information for doctors and education, I would say that we're very focused on. And of course, then, just developing and improving the test. Work a lot with product management as well. So we have to focus on making these products as well as possible and that meet all the necessities of the market at that point, really.
And like Jack, you also came from the bright side to the dark side, didn't you?
So I did study marketing and sales management. So I actually have always done business development, so much more focused on sales. And then I moved on to marketing. So yeah.
Nice. Nice, Andrea. How about you? How does your role differ from what was said here? You didn't come to the bright side to the dark side, did you?
You know what? I don't really know why you call it the dark side to begin with, but fine. I would call it the other way around, but it's fine. I can see your preference, Mafalda, already. So no, I've always done marketing, always B2B, always startup, scale up. So I don't know. I guess I found my way, so to say, or the way found me super early on. My role is very different because, first of all, I joined Brighter just a month and a half ago, but also because marketing is very new for the company. So I'm still in the process of actually setting everything up, right? So when you think MarTech, like everything needs to be synchronized, in order to be able to run any campaigns, right? You need to have the right tech and you need to have it synchronized. So we're working on this now, but that usually takes a bit of time. Nevertheless, this was my starting point. Then also education. It's a new category, right? We do data anonymization for faces and licenses. So basically deep fakes, to protect identities in public, which sounds pretty cool, but people don't know it exists, right? Yeah. You also do with regulators and so on. So it's a relatively complex product with a cool mission, so to say. But a lot of education work needs to be done, before you even, start doing lead gen campaigns and stuff like this. And branding, right? If there's no marketing, you can imagine that there's no really branding. There's a logo there. There's kind of like what we do deck somewhere. So like putting everything in order takes time. This is where I'm at. But yeah, it's very exciting.
Would you say that that's one of your biggest challenge in your role currently?
Content for me is the biggest challenge, right? Because creating good content takes a lot of time. You also need it for branding, for everything. I think everything, for me at least, everything starts with content. Everything starts with story. So at the moment, creating content is the biggest challenge. All the rest, I think, with the right people, you can get done. I mean, it's no rocket science, but yeah, content is hard.
What do you say? Is content also one of your biggest challenges in your particular case?
It is a challenge, which is why I'm recruiting for that role, actually. So,
all right, if any one of you is listening to us and like to apply.
Yes, I need some as well, so please go ahead.
All right, so
that's not why I'm here.
So here you go. We just changed from talking about your role to a hiring part. So it's a break for the hiring. So Andrea, Alicia, and Jack are hiring. So continue, Jack.
Let's not turn this into a jobs fair. But no, it is a challenge. I think for everything that Andrea's just said, really, it takes time. And I am on the bright side of marketing. Like, I love being creative, so I love coming, with ideas and thinking about the comm strategy and genuine, especially in B2B. I think there can be a hesitancy sometimes to be super creative, or certainly there has been in years gone by. But actually, the B2B market, I think there's beginning to be more and more space for big ideas. So I've got lots of ideas, but it then just takes the time to execute. Can't just come up with ideas and then not do anything about it. So that, of course, is a challenge. If you're asking me, were you asking me what my biggest challenge is, or was it just on content? Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah. No. So I think my biggest challenge actually is a little bit unique actually for me in my career so far. So my background also is in startups and scale ups, and usually there's lots of things you want to do, but maybe the budget might be a little bit more restrictive. With Assess First, it's quite an interesting situation. As I said earlier, they're actually quite a well-established and well-oiled machine for the French market. I mean, there's customers all over the world, like 3,500 of them, but actually within the French market, very well established. But in the UK, it is very much a startup. And I think that my personal biggest challenge, but also maybe the biggest challenge for the business, is how do you create a level of autonomy and independence to enable growth into a new territory where the brand is not so well known, whilst at the same time holding on to, the things that make you who you are. And I think actually from a startup, that even if you're not internationalizing, that's something that a lot of startups do as they scale and as they try and grow. How do you go and find all these new communities, these new advocates, whilst also making the most of and looking after those people that have really got you to where you are today. And I think that challenge across languages, across cultures, doing it in a way that doesn't neglect all the great things we've already done in France, and I'm proud that we're French, that is a challenge in itself, which can be seen in lots of areas of the marketing mix. So that's the bit I need to navigate.
Nice. Alicia, I see you nodding. Would you like to build on that?
I mean, I completely agree. At the end of the day, yeah, challenges come from lots of different points, and I think that I can agree that about like creativity in B2B business, they're always like very reluctant to go into like these let's say more crazy ideas, but at the end of the day, marketing is extremely important for business to business or business to client. Like, why would you like try to differentiate that? And I think that also, let's say in general structures, when it's B2B, you are going to a type of persona that can be very reluctant to certain ways. But I think that is changing generationally, so that's kind of fun. But at the end, yeah, with the content and the challenges and everything, I have like big issues because at the end of the day, I only work with scientists. And part of my job is trying to translate science into human language is one of my, let's say, I would say.
They are human scientists though, right?
They are kind of, you know, sometimes I feel, I hope. But yeah, sometimes having people realize that the message that they're trying to actually show to the world isn't being understood, and that if you put it in, if you actually express it in a different way, people are going to understand it and feel it and create an emotion. But the way that they're saying it right now, no one understands, and they're not actually, you know, playing with people, let's say not playing, but actually having like emotions towards it, because they're not understanding. They're talking in such a technical way that at the end of the day, it's very hard to understand for the rest of people. And especially when you're trying to sell science to businesses, there's like a miscommunication there. Because at the end of the day, when we're going like I don't know, we're going internationally and we're trying to convince companies to sell our products in a certain way. The scientists are just putting up all the technical part and all that technical information and how they see it. And you can see their passion in their faces, but they're not actually getting the message to the person. So I would say that's a big challenge on my side.
Yeah, I see. Yeah. And going from challenges, how do you, and we can continue with you, Alicia, as we are on that note, how do you try to overcome those challenges?
You're on mute.
You're on mute, yes.
You would think I would know that by now. The last part that you said completely cut off. If you could repeat that.
So my question was, so what have you been doing? How's your day-to-day, let's say, to overcome those challenges?
I'm a very people person, so at the end of the day, I try to bring different people and to understand each other and listen to everybody's points of view. I would say that and it's a huge effort to sit down with scientists and have them focus on the topics that are important to you, because of course they're talking about their passions, so they're going to go away that's like what's interesting to them. So you let them talk, you let them everything, but then you have to take 3 steps back and go back and say, okay, but what is this for? Can you explain this? These are my questions, you know, and I have to like develop the questions in a way that the scientists understand, and also try to understand scientists' heads and different people's heads, which I think is very important in marketing in general. And of course, like, for example, if you're asking them a question and it's a yes, no answer, they're not going to develop on that. That's a scientist's brain. You ask them a question and the answer is yes or no. So you have to say yes, but why? And how and who, you know, and just going again with these questions and trying to make them understand what you're not understanding in a certain way. It's a hard process. Definitely.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, absolutely. I used to prospect technical personas, so I do relate a bit to that. So yes, I totally get you. Andrea, how's usually your typical day look like?
I'm too new to have a typical day, to be honest. So it's a bit hectic. I think every beginning is a bit like this. It takes time to start prioritizing properly. But really, I mean, what I'm trying to do now is really find a way to tell our story in the right way, based on the persona. That's going to take some time, and it's the same like Alicia said. I think it's especially when you deal with personas that you have nothing in common with, like, I don't know, lawyers, but lawyers are amazing people. I'm just saying that they're very different from previous personas I worked with, right? Or I don't know, like machine learning engineers and so on. They're very different. So you need to tell stories also on, like, based on their personality. Then find the channels. I'm also like investigating to see where are these people, where can I find them, how do I reach them. And ultimately, I think marketing should spend more time with customers and prospects as well. So I'm also trying to do this. So convincing salespeople to let me sit in their meetings, see how these people talk, and afterwards emulate this sort of language, this, in the content we build. So yeah.
Jack, does it differ your day to day from what Alicia and Andrea said? How does it differ?
I don't know. I was hoping you just weren't going to come to me then.
All right, let me rephrase then. How is your day usually, your typical?
No, I'm still hoping that you're not going to come to me. I think, and the reason that I'm hesitant really to answer is because I actually wish that my days and my time were more structured. I think
I can
it's
relate.
really hard. In a marketing position, it's really hard to like focus your day in a certain way and see, okay, because it's just this mess here, this mess there. So it's, yeah. I was also dreading that question, to be honest, because I was like, oh wow, I don't think I could say like this is my structure, because every day it's a different mess.
Yeah, so, I can relate to that too here.
And I would sort of agree, yeah, with everything being said so far. Again, sort of working alongside scientists, developers, and one of the things that I want to do is, again, not neglect that science, but bring that science out and bring it to the fore. And I think particularly for marketers, particularly in B2B and particularly in technology companies, so usually in startups, SaaS, scale-ups, I think it's really important that your day's a bit of a mess, because you have to strategically, really, as is the call to arms for marketers, you have to try to get the seat at the table and be kind of connected to so many different stakeholders in the business and figure out, like, internally, what is our message here, what is our technology, what is our story, like, what is our differentiation.
Yep.
And I think simultaneously, the only way that you can do that is by having really broad, sporadic, messy conversations with lots of people. And sometimes you get to the end of a week and think, I haven't done any work because I've just been on calls, or I've just been listening, or I'm typing up documents and notes from this town hall. But I think that when you can get through that necessary evil of sporadic work, I think as long as you can then be disciplined, or your team underneath you can be then disciplined to be able to turn that into meaningful output, I think that you reap the rewards. So yeah, my day is, I feel like a little bit like Andrea, like I've only been working at Salesforce for a month, because there's a lot of kind of plates spinning. But I think that that's a necessary evil of marketing that should bear fruit.
I must say that
sorry, go on.
I was just going to say that sounds very comforting, I must say. Because like I feel like, oh, someone understands me.
But I think what's hard though is to like draw a line. I think it's important not to work in a waterfall way, like plan the quarter and like every day, just go towards it, because you're going to miss a lot of opportunities. But it's tricky to find the right balance and be like, okay, look, these are our OKRs or whatever you call it. These are our objectives. But then there's little opportunities, coming here and there that you also have to take them on. And yeah, I never had a typical day, to be honest. I'm not sure if I'm looking forward to it, but if it happens, I'll let you know. There's no typical day.
I totally relate with you, and I don't work in marketing, but I work in a startup. So every day is a new day with new challenges. So I try sometimes to structure my day or my week, and then nothing has to do with what I planned. So I know exactly what you guys mean. You mentioned something, Andrea. You mentioned all OKRs and KPIs. In your roles, usually, what are the typical KPIs and OKRs?
It's revenue, right? I mean, that's why you have marketing, like marketing departments. It's not the MQLs or I don't know, number of leads, so to say. I think it's all about revenue, right, and pipe generation. So my objectives, the reason why I exist in Brighter is really revenue generation. So they look at the pipe I generate through the campaigns. Now, of course, I personally will also look at MQLs, and SQLs just to track conversion and see if I can optimize what I'm doing. But ultimately is how much money do I bring and what's the ROI, right? It's not just how much money you bring, but really how much did you invest in order to get that revenue? So my boss will definitely look at the revenue. Yeah, that's it.
I'm not going to ask Alicia or Jack if revenue is important, because that would be a stupid question. So my question is, do you have, besides revenue, other OKRs, other KPIs that you look at usually? Jack?
I must say that in my case, I think that I'm in a very similar situation as Andrea. I mean, my company is 30 years old, but they've never had a marketing department as a such. So this is something that I'm building up just at the moment. So of course, like my main focus is people and systems and structure. So I'm measuring myself right now in how well the structure that makes sense for our company is going and how it's being set up and if this is functioning. And also I'm focusing a lot on keeping the people that work around me happy and that they feel accomplished with their work, because I'm a big believer in teams and people. And I think that if people aren't happy and people aren't feeling accomplished with what they do, we aren't going anywhere as a team or as a company. So I would say that that's definitely my focus at this point of time, and what I'm trying to measure in a very, let's say, not a number, it's not a figure or anything, but it's more of like a gut feeling of how it's going.
How about you, Jack?
Again, so don't disagree with anything really that's been said, and actually having come from sales, that the reason that I was really either moved or was moved from sales into marketing was essentially because my biggest complaint as a salesperson was like, I haven't got enough leads. Like, if you give me more leads, I'll be able to close more business.
Oh, marketing people hate to hear that.
Yeah, and essentially the business called me out and was like, well, you should go and generate your own leads. So off you go into marketing. So that was essentially, and again, the flexibility that comes with the startup allowed me to do that. And, it worked. And I was a better marketer than I was a salesperson, really. So for me, like, generating leads, being tied to revenue is super important to keep marketing as a function to the business honest and accountable. At the same time, they obviously can be a race to the bottom, because if I were only focused on revenue or only focused on lead generation, and that is the main thing I look at on my dashboard, but if I were only focused on that, then what happens in like 3 years? Like, do I walk away from Assess First and go, oh great, like I generated 200 leads in that final quarter? Like, ultimately, who cares? Like, it doesn't change the world. It doesn't really change the business. So whilst revenue is like super important and is the thing that keeps me accountable, I think for me, again, if I think about a startup mentality trying to break into the UK, it's also a bit like flags in the sand. So can we demonstrate that we are engaged? So whether that's digital engagement across social, can we demonstrate that we're engaged with people that we're confident are our ICP, that we're confident are going to be the sorts of business and be the sorts of thought leaders in that market that are going to be able to take the business forward? And I would, of course, I want to be able to walk away from Assess First whenever that is and say, me and my team were able to contribute to the revenue and to the leads and all of that kind of tangible stuff. But I think also what would be more important to me is to be able to walk away and say, look at these businesses that we were having conversations with in 2022. Like, look at the kind of value of that in terms of changing the world, and look at where those conversations went, and look at the people and the businesses we were talking to in 2024. And for me, like, what levers do I have to pull to get to that point? That for me is like the thing that I'm focused on always, but that's very difficult to communicate in a way that people just think you're not making it up, so there's a balance. Yeah, there's a balance.
I see Andrea smiling. Do you have anything to add there?
I don't know. Like if I had a boss that would talk to me about what conversations I had, I'd be like, wow, that's amazing. That's never going to happen. I don't know. Ultimately, I always thought it's a very clear mission. It's like close deals, bring the inbounds to, grow the inbounds, just constantly grow, and optimize the performance of your campaigns. And ultimately, if you are good at showing that, you engage with your customers, the prospects, and so on, that's going to show in the revenue. So ultimately, everything you mentioned is connected to the revenue. Like if you're good at all those things you said, you're going to see it in the revenue. So this is why I think it's actually a good indicator. But again, having just one, I think it's a bit too little. I think it's reductive. But I've met many marketers that have as their objective, they're like KPIs, it's purely MQL. And I think that's a mistake because you can fake it. I mean, you know that, right? Your marketers, you can fake what an MQL is, change the definition, approve more and so on. But ultimately, if nothing closes, you're going to get in big troubles with sales because you're going to need sales to be a successful marketer. So I think it's not a good way to do it. I really think it's a number of opportunities and the revenues that marketers should look at. At least if I was a CEO, that's what I'd ask my marketers to look at.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And there is always this very known sales and marketing friction that I also like. I mean, me and Andrea, just for context, used to work together. I used to be in sales. She was in marketing. And I always saw marketing as my best friend because it really helped me book more meetings. And Andrea knows that. I'm not just saying this for the camera. Every time she's like, I have these marketing stretches, like, oh my God, this will generate more calls for me, which will help my target. So I think it's really important also what Jack mentioned as well. It's really important for the whole success of the business to marketing and sales really, really work together. Going to, let's say, the last part of our chat, Alicia, how do you keep updated with the new marketing trends, or how do you get ideas? What do you read? What's the media that you consume?
I would say that I consume every type of media possible. I'm in the sense of like I get ideas from, of course, reading articles maybe in Harvard Business Review and the like marketing specific stuff. I even get ideas from a child posting something on TikTok. So actually saying where my idea comes from is very, very broad, because of course you can read a super professional article and they're commenting on this and the research that they've done, but then you have a 15-year-old posting some weird idea that they've had on some social media, and you also get a light of like, oh wow, wait, that could actually work, so saying, hey, I get my information from here is, I wouldn't say answerable, but I think that as a marketer, you have to keep your eyes and your ears open all the time from everywhere and all the information that's coming in, so yeah, it's very hard to focus where it's coming from.
Yeah, same in sales. Yeah, absolutely. Jack, what would you say here? Is there anything that you usually read that's also here and there? How do you usually consume knowledge, let's say?
Yeah, so there's obviously a lot of information everywhere, which I personally find it can be daunting to know where to go and actually then why you're even bothering, because it's just like noise. So for me, I actually use the CIM, so the Chartered Institute of Marketing here in the UK. So that for me was, as well as just making the move from sales into marketing, I went in at a tactical level really as a marketer, but the CIM enabled me to see things at a strategic level. And actually, whether you're talking about generating leads, generating revenue, the strategies that you learn in some of the oldest frameworks from the CIM, if you go back to Ansoff in the 60s, they still hold up. They still hold up even in digital marketing and social media. So for me, I go back to the CIM website. There's a resources section on there. There's regular podcasts, there's regular blogs, and basically just use that as my hub, and from there kind of work out. I try not to bury myself in too much, but that kind of gives me enough just to kind of, yeah, trick my brain into action, I suppose. And the last thing I would say is, although I was saying about speaking to people within the business and you're kind of in that web, like speaking to customers, I think it was Andrea mentioned it earlier, you know, that marketers they should be the champion of the customer, possibly in a way that may only be matched by potentially UX, but even at UX, they're thinking about a user rather than a customer. And so spending time and learning from customers, learning about the conversations they're having and what they're reading, that is, if you combine that then with the things that you're learning from marketing resources, that's usually for me what gives me the ideas to then move forward. So yeah.
What would you say, Andrea?
Yeah, Harvard Business Review. I think I read it pretty frequently, not in the last month and a half, but before that. And I used to use LinkedIn a lot. I follow quite a few people, like especially in demand gen that are sharing, you know, like thought leaders or whatever that I can learn from. But recently, yeah, LinkedIn became a bit of, I don't know, like I don't like it that much anymore, at least for like getting good content. I think it's became more like a fluff.
Very
like
noisy. Yeah.
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 I'm fed up with it. But now I think the most important thing for me is really my peers. Like see what they're trying out, like what tools they're using. You know, I reach out to them often, and the network I have as well, and I think that's very useful. Especially in B2B. I mean, I think we are very creative in B2B. At least I had the chance to actually work with super creative people. I just think that strategy sometimes is more, not sometimes, strategy is more important in B2B than creativity, but this doesn't mean there's no creativity. And I think I was fortunate enough to see many. So yeah, my peers, LinkedIn, Harvard Business Review, American Marketing Association sometimes, but yeah.
Sounds good. Good. As we are wrapping up, I have a final question for all of you. So basically, I was collecting prospecting emails for marketing people, and I will show you one. Obviously, I took away the company and the name of the person. So I'll just show the email. And Alicia and Jack, you're really in sales as well. So I'd love to hear your thoughts on this email. So if you would receive this email, what would be your thoughts on it? So who wants to go first? Jack, used to work in sales, you went to marketing. What's your opinion about this email to a marketing person?
I need some time to read it. Hang on, very quickly. So I think to a large extent, the game of cold marketing and cold sales is largely dead anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm already looking at this from a place of, I'm sure everybody else is the same on this call, that the amount of emails or LinkedIn DMs that I get today are unmanageable to the point where if I don't know them, I'm done. I will try where possible, if somebody gives me a good intro, to respond to them. So immediately, this is like 4 paragraphs. I was reading online. It's not very specific. It sounds generic. It looks like it's just gone through a HubSpot automation. I'm not interested. The other thing as well, just like we were saying, as marketers, you should be the champion of the customer, and as sales, really, you should be the inquisitor of the customer. So like this sentence for me, like with a surge of online customers due to the digitalized era we live in, which sounds like just the biggest load of BS in the world anyway, I imagine that one of your priorities would be able to generate more and more traffic. If somebody tells me what they imagine my priorities are, like I want to slap them in the face and send because they don't know, and they shouldn't assume, and they shouldn't imagine. They just need to ask the question.
Okay.
Ask the question and then get some kind of engagement. But yeah, that's.
I like that. I like that. Andrea, what's your take?
Well, I'm not sure if I'd slap the guy. I will consider slapping the guy who says this, but I think it's a very valid point.
I don't advocate violence.
Yeah, well, it's not the best, but I've seen so much. I don't know. I've seen worse stuff. I'm not sure about you, Jack, but John is trying. I'm not sure if I would take the call unless he would attach maybe a piece of relevant, like a one pager to know exactly what they do. But in general, I'm not taking any calls from an email unless they send me like a PDF or a brochure that kind of shows me what they do. Otherwise, I'm not wasting my time. So I really care about context.
Interesting.
So interesting.
That's very interesting. Would you read the PDF if someone sent you? If it's
one
page?
pager, yeah. One pager, I would. Interesting. At least I would skim through, right? I would skim through. I'm like, see if something that I might need. If it's not, obviously, no interest. But yeah, if it's one pager, sure.
Absolutely, nice. How about you, Alicia?
I mean, I must say that this is the type of email which I immediately delete. I probably wouldn't even. Yeah, probably if I see just in the email that I was reading online that your company, I wouldn't even open the email most probably, just because of the amount of work that we have at the moment. It's something that I can't invest time on. And also, you can make emails interesting, and you can catch attention on the email, and you can tell me what you do. And if you were telling me directly on the email, hey, we can offer you this XYZ and this is how we're going to help you, then I might be able to invest the time. But if I have to actually read this email, it's 4 paragraphs, you're not saying anything. I feel that you're not giving anything of interest, and you're not giving any value on the actual email. Then I would actually have to go to the email, see if you're actually attaching something. I wouldn't have the time for that, unfortunately. I suppose that would be my thing.
Can I ask you something? Do you care if a vendor says we work with, I don't know, Abracadabra and Marina and whatever? Like, does this help you? Because honestly, I don't care that much. Does it?
I love that point, Andrea, that you just made.
I don't, because I work in diagnostics in general, and maybe you can say, oh, I work with Roche. That is nothing. Roche is big. You're giving. So
does it matter to you? Because that I see in every prospecting email. Like, we work with X, Y, Y. I'm like,
I feel that some people might see, oh wow, I want to reach that.
Really? Okay.
Maybe that helps someone. For me,
each person is different. There is no right or wrong, right? So this is just your opinion on. In my very personal opinion, I also tell my BDs to not name drop. I don't think that's relevant, but each person reacts differently. How about you, Jack?
So both with this email, but then sorry, there's a bit of an echo.
Yeah.
Both with this email, but also this applies to like social selling. So social selling for me is something I'm super passionate about. Like I've
You are. I love your posts. I hope you don't consider me a stalker because I'm always liking them.
I'm super passionate about it, and I've consulted. I'm not crazy on LinkedIn like at all, and I haven't got the biggest following. In fact, I also agree, like LinkedIn's become very noisy, so I actually delete followers on a quarterly basis or delete connections.
Oh, I have to be careful.
So that no, but just to improve my own experience with LinkedIn, and people forget to do this. If people hate LinkedIn, like you can, LinkedIn, it doesn't always help itself, but you can curate it a bit. But what I was coming to was that, whether it's LinkedIn DMs or email, if you're social selling, the key word there is social. Like an email or a LinkedIn DM is the equivalent of being at a networking event with somebody in a bar or wherever you might be in like a meeting co-working space. And can you imagine waiting for a glass of Prosecco to come over at a networking event and somebody coming over and saying, hi, John, how are you? So we work with this company and blah, blah, blah. And this is what I do. And I can imagine one of you,
some people doing that on conferences. And I'm like, this is so weird. But why are you doing that?
And there's the social part. You're missing the social skill.
You miss the social part. And if the people that can find a way, you'll never be able to recreate that physical connection engagement, but people still buy from people. And in my experience, the salespeople, and actually I was quite good at this part of the sales pipeline. I was not so good at closing. I was much better at opening. The people that can find ways to open up that social element, like without pitching in 4 paragraphs, like how would you speak to somebody at a bar if you've never met them? How would you speak to somebody at the street? It's like, hey, have you got 5 minutes? I just want to ask you a quick question. Or do you mind if we just go and sit down over there? I've met this person and said, I should really talk to you. Or like instead of saying I work with this company is like one thing we used to do all the time in sales would be, hey, I'm visiting this studio because I worked in VFX. Hey, I'm at this studio. I can see they're 2 streets away. Do you mind if I pop in for a coffee? And like, if you can find that social element in, and if you read an email and it just doesn't sound like you could say that at a bar to somebody, you probably shouldn't be saying it. That's why GIFs and videos work really well in email, or I mean, I think the wave has probably faded, but that's why they work so effectively, because they reintroduce that social element, even in really serious B2B environments. So yeah, that would be my like thing.
I agree. Yeah, no, totally. I train my sales reps, and I'm all about like LinkedIn video, social, and less robotic kind of conversation,
like voice,
and weird jargon, right?
Voice notes as well.
Love them. Gold.
Honestly, like hardly anybody uses them. So those
that's insane. That's insane. Like voice messages on LinkedIn are so powerful. It's crazy. Yeah. So people who are listening to us, please start using voice notes on LinkedIn. But you know, as all of our guests said, be human. Don't just say hi Andrea. I'm reaching out to you because I work with blah 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 and blah blah blah. Yeah. Right?
Yeah.
So
you can have so much fun with a 30-second voice note. Like
absolutely.
Anyway.
Great. Great. Thank you so much, all of you, for this chat with me. It was very insightful for me and for sure for everyone who are listening to us. For those who are listening, we have more episodes coming up as well. And yeah, I hope this helped everyone in the community to better understand the marketing department. So thank you so much, all of you, and I'll speak to you soon.
Speak to you soon.
Bye,
Have
guys.
a good one. Bye-bye.
Bye.